Matthew 22:33 through 40.
No, you Google.
Yeah. As the crowds listened, they were amazed at his teaching. Now, there's several reasons probably why they were amazed. One being that he wasn't educated like the Pharisees or the Sadducees or the scribes. He didn't go to a certain schooling to learn these things. Another could have been what he was teaching. He showed such wisdom, and they were just profound by his teaching. So the reason why they're amazed is probably a combination of both of these. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they put their heads together. Now, Pharisees and Sadducees didn't really get along. But the thing that they got along with is we got to get rid of this Jesus. The Pharisees might have took a back seat trying to let the Sadducees deal with them, trick them. Because the question they asked him earlier was about the resurrection, which was something that the Pharisees accepted, something that the Sadducees didn't. So the Pharisees would not have asked that question because it made a mockery of what the Pharisees believed. But the Sadducees had no problem with it. And the Pharisees at this point may be like, well, they couldn't get him, but I bet we can get them. They ain't good enough. They ain't well studied enough, but we are. We can trick this Jesus. So it may have been a competition thing. And one of them, a teacher of the law, this is probably a scribe that's within the Pharisees. One translation says lawyer. It ain't a lawyer as we know today, but somebody who studies the law. By way of testing him, asked, teacher. Now this term teacher, it may be genuine, it may not be, but the disciples often did not call him teacher, because they knew he was more than a teacher. But the Pharisees and Sadducees viewed him as a teacher. They did not view him as a good teacher, but they knew he was teaching. It may be in terms of sarcasm. Teacher, come.
Yeah.
What is the great commandment in the law? And now, many people think the law, they think about the Ten Commandments. The fact is, there's over 360 teachings of the law, composed in the first 5 books of Moses, the Bible, books of Moses. Now, having known that, they may include their own little traditions as a part of that teaching too, because this is a Pharisee asking and not a Sadducee. So the way to wash hands may be a teaching according to the Pharisee. He said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with your heart, with your soul, and with your mind. Okay, now this is actually from the book of Moses. Jesus is actually quoting from Deuteronomy, I believe it is. So this is actually a teaching of the law. At one time I did not know this, but it's actually from the law. It ain't something he's just making up.
Wow.
This is the greatest and the chief commandment. If we can do this, everything else is going to fall into place. If we can love God with all our heart, our soul, and mind, we won't do everything else that the law requires us to. The fact is, we're not going to be able to do this completely. This is something we're going to have to strive to keep doing day after day. Now, privately, the Pharisees may have said, we're doing this. Because they had that issue with pride. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. This is also in Deuteronomy, I believe it is. Now the Pharisees clearly did not do this. Therefore they were guilty of breaking the law.
The whole law.
Yeah. So at this point, you don't really say anything else. they realized they transgressed against God. Because based on the pride of the Pharisees, they felt everybody else was beneath them. They elevated themselves, which means they did not show love to one another like they were supposed to. On these two commandments, the whole law and the prophets depend.
Right.
So this is the teaching in the entire Bible, pretty much. To love God and to love your neighbor. If you don't get that out of the Bible, you're missing